Hi everyone, my name is Arielle, and I am definitely the first to admit in times like this that we need nature now more than ever, but we also have to be really respectful of the reality of this situation, and that's going to require us as outdoor enthusiasts to adjust the way that we show up in the world and interact with our favorite people and favorite activities so that we can really do our part in protecting those communities and populations that are at risk during this COVID-19 pandemic. So today, in partnership with my friends over at backcountry.com, I wanted to bring to you my 5 tips to responsibly recreating in the outdoors during the coronavirus pandemic. So before I jump into the 5 tips, I just want to acknowledge that it is a great privilege we have here in the United States to be able to recreate in the outdoors right now. And so, there are a lot of countries out there right now where people actually aren't able to leave their homes. And so I think it's really important for all of us to respect the recommendations and rules that are coming at us when it comes to being able to enjoy outdoor spaces so that we can continue to have that privilege. Things are changing really rapidly. Every single day things change. And so I just want to drop in, these notes on how we can be responsible, but also acknowledge that it is a really big privilege we have to even have that personal choice at this moment. Okay, tip number 1, and I would say that this is one of the more important tips when it comes to responsibly outdoor recreating, is that now is not the time to travel to your favorite outdoor destinations. I know that a lot of you are now off of work. Maybe you have your whole family home for the first time in ages, and you have a lot of free time on your hands, and it seems like going out to the desert or going to your favorite mountain town would be the perfect way to spend your time together as a family. And unfortunately, there are a couple good reasons why that is an inappropriate way to recreate in the outdoors right now. So the first and kind of most major reason is that most of these communities that are the gateway to your favorite, national parks or your favorite outdoor recreation areas are really small communities. We have small hospitals here in Aspen, Colorado, where I live. Most of the major cases of anything, most of the major injuries have to actually get fight for life over to Denver, or they commute them over to Grand Junction. So it's these small communities don't have the infrastructure in our medical system to handle an outbreak if it were to happen, which is why most of these communities are making massive kind of shutdowns to encourage people not to come. So my local resorts closed down a handful of days ago, and it's partially to protect the employees and things like that, but it's also to stop people from traveling, to give them less incentive to travel to these places so that we can really start to contain the spread of this virus. Moab has also started to take these measures by closing down hotels and campsites to people who aren't local. And I think it's really important. These rules are being put in place to protect us from ourselves. And like I said earlier, we have the great privilege of being able to and recreate in our own backyards, and I don't want that to be taken away because we get caught up in thinking it's the perfect time for a desert trip. So when you are taking time to spend, if you are wanting to take some time outdoors, it's really important to know that it has to be in your own backyard. It has to be somewhere that you can easily access without having to go to a gas station, without having to go to a grocery store. It's not the outdoor spaces where the spread is going to happen, as long as you're maintaining social distancing, which I'll get into next, but it's these community spaces. It's, when you go out to dinner, or when you go to the grocery store, or when you get gas, or when you stop to use the restroom at a gas station on a road trip. These are all ways that the virus can spread and infiltrate these small communities that didn't have exposure before this. So super important that if you are going to recreate, it's got to be in your own backyard. All right, tip number 2 is maintaining social distancing. Now, social distancing, I almost hate that word because it makes it sound like we should avoid people altogether. And physically, yes, we should avoid people altogether. I don't think that we should completely disconnect from our loved ones. I think we should use technology to stay in touch. But social distancing is a topic that I don't think people quite understand the nuances of, so I want to get into it. So first and foremost, social distancing is being 6 to 8 feet minimum away from another human being. Obviously, if you live in a home with someone, that's not going to be possible, so you're kind of clumped in it together. But anybody who doesn't live in your household with you, you need to maintain the 6 to 8 feet distance from. even family members, right? So if I were to see my mom, I would need to maintain that distance from her, even friends. Because here's the thing is even if you're going out in a small group of 3 or 4, if one of those person has had that same amount of close contact with another person, then it kind of defeats, it might slow it a little bit because you're not around 50 people, but it doesn't have the same impact as if we really respect that 6 to 8 foot distance more if possible, because if someone does happen to sneeze, the sneeze can project much further than that. So super important to maintain that. And so with that being said, when you're recreating outdoors, if you're going to recreate with other people, which for safety in a lot of places, you know, it's not super safe to go out there by yourself. So if you're going to recreate with other people, I recommend, if you can, recreating with the people who live in your household, who you already have kind of broken that, you know, you're in it together, you've broken that 6 to 8 foot social distancing because you have to. If you're going to expand that circle to people outside of your household, you need to remain in that distancing. And so smaller groups are better, and keep your distance. Don't carpool. I know that's really hard for those of us who really care about the environment, but that's an enclosed space. So if you're meeting a friend at the trailhead, you need to meet them separately, and you need to keep your distance while you're hiking, especially when you're speaking, because as we speak, we tend to project, and there is particles coming out of our mouth as we do that. And so we are creating the capacity for the virus to spread in that way. So super important to maintain social distancing with everyone. I saw quite a few like smaller groups out, and it needs to be, you need to keep that full on distance. Okay, so tip number 3 and tip number 4 kind of go together. Tip number 3 is, if you are going to be recreating alone outdoors in any backcountry situation, it's really important, as always, to let people know your plan and let people know when you're gonna get back, and to have those virtual check-ins with people. It's kind of a tough call for me on being able to suggest if that's a responsible decision, because in a lot of ways that allows you to maintain your social distancing, but in other ways it might put you in a position where you would need outside help from other people to come and rescue you if there were to be a situation. So you really need to use your discretion, and probably not go into areas where that would even be something that needs to come up. I hope you understand where my heart is with that. It's just really important that we stay safe. And that kind of leads into tip number 4, and that's, we all need to stay within our own means and our own abilities out there in the wilderness right now. So if you're going out ski touring, you need to make sure you're staying out of avalanche terrain, basically taking little to no risk, because if you were to get hurt, or you were to end up needing help or hospitalization or anything like that, you are taking away energy that they could have to help people that are sick right now, and helping to contain and slow down the spread of the virus. So it's really important that you acknowledge that now is not the time to push your limits. It's not the time to see if you can send the hardest thing you've ever sent. Now is the time to just acknowledge that it is a great privilege that we have to be able to leave our homes and to have some sunshine on our skin, and to really, really respect that by staying within your boundaries. Okay, and my final tip for you today, tip number 5, is as always, leave no trace principles. So leave whatever wilderness area that you're going into better than you found it. If you see trash there that was left by someone else, pick it up. Don't leave any of your trash. Currently where I live, there's a lot more dogs out on the resorts because they're allowed to be there right now, whereas during the regular season, they're only allowed to be there in small windows, so there aren't as many dogs in the mountain. And the reason I'm talking about dogs is because part of our responsibility as dog owners is to pick up their poop, and that is part of Leave No Trace. So whatever it is that you're doing in the outdoors, it's really, really important that you don't leave an impact on those areas in a negative way by leaving trash or anything like that. If you want to learn a little bit more about Leave No Trace principles, I highly suggest you go over to their website and maybe even take their mini course, because I think that whether you recreate a lot or you're new to outdoor recreation, it is really important that you understand all of those. So as I said in the beginning of this video, I think in times like this, we need nature more now than ever, but we do really, really have to be responsible in the way that we show up as outdoor enthusiasts to make sure that we are doing our part to reduce the spread into these at-risk populations and communities. And I think it's always really important to remember with all of this that even in isolation, we're all in this together. So it is a great privilege that we have to still have access to these areas. Please stay in your backyard, stay a safe distance away from people, stay within your realm, and always respect these wilderness areas that we have the great privilege of spending time in. I want to give a final big thank you to backcountry.com, and if there is any things that you need in order to be safe or safely explore the outdoors in your area, feel free to check out backcountry.com. They have closed all their in-person stores to help protect their employees, but they are still able to ship you whatever you need. And yeah, I think that's it for now. If you have any questions, shoot them down in the comments below. If there's anything that I can ask, is just to be really kind and respectful with any comments. As I said earlier, things are changing rapidly by the day, and so it's quite possible that within a day or two of posting this, things may have changed. So show up to your fellow outdoor community with love and respect, and invite people into this conversation so that we can continue to enjoy this great privilege that we have to be outdoor enthusiasts even during the time of the coronavirus outbreak.